Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara, and today we're going to be exploring the heart chakra, also known as the Anahata chakra in Sanskrit. The chakras are an energetic system within our body. They say we have 7. Some people say we have up to thousands of chakras and energy centers within our body. But for the sake of the series, we're only going to be exploring the 7 chakras in the body. Now, the chakras originate from the Vedas, which are an ancient text from India. I'm sure you guys have heard about the chakras, maybe in yoga or Reiki, or even in any form of energy work, energy healing, or in the New Age. A lot of people do talk about the chakras as well. So in this video, I will be going in depth in terms of the heart chakra, my own personal findings thus far. I will give you guys the background information, what the heart chakra is all about, but a lot of information are things that I have just gathered, noticed, observed, either within myself or through people over the years. So as usual, you guys can take what resonates, leave behind what does not. I use a lot of these things that I personally learned about as kind of like an energy focus. In yoga, we have something called the drishti, the gaze, even in meditation. So basically the whole concept of this is when you focus on something, it helps you get into a meditative state. So you will see this, let's say when people are trying to do a yoga pose, they're gonna say focus on maybe a spot in front of you and just constantly focus on that thing. So you don't focus on maybe falling out of that pose, you focus more so maybe on the breathing and actually kind of trying to get your mind out of the physical. For me personally, I found through time that when I learn concepts, I kind of think about them a lot. I focus on all of these philosophies and these types of things, and then through me focusing on them, I start to connect the dots. So this is what I want you guys to do as well. Don't take everything that I say, like I mentioned, as, you know, this is the way and this is what this means and kind of stick to it. I'm sure there are many more explanations of the heart chakra other than what I will be saying in this video. And maybe as time goes on, I'll make new conclusions and observations. So this is what my observations have been thus far in terms of the heart chakra. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. The heart chakra is located in our heart space. So it's all about the heart space. It's the unconditional love, giving and receiving love. A lot of the time, the heart chakra is connected to the mother or whoever is that dominant feminine role in your life. The arms are connected to the heart chakra. The upper back is connected to the heart chakra. The hands are connected to the heart chakra. Something that I learned once that I thought was really cute was when people hold hands, they're basically connecting their heart chakras to each other. So this is really adorable. So the thing is, the heart chakra is interesting. I've spoken a lot in my videos here and there about the collective wounds. I used to talk a lot about the 3 biggest collective wounds in the collective overall: root, solar plexus, and sacral in the shadow. I have also discovered and come to conclude that the heart chakra is another wounded chakra in this collective. All of them are, I guess, in one way, shape, or form, but the heart chakra is a big one. It's really been brought to my attention in the recent years with recent events. It's been very much targeted at the heart chakra. The respiratory system is in here, the lungs are in here. So anytime you have anything going on in the physical reality, it has manifested first from the astral spiritual plane. So when we were having a certain thing going around, that was basically dealing with the lungs. And by the way, I am not a medical professional and I'm not a psychologist, so those are my disclaimers right there. I just tend to observe things and come to my own conclusions and then share them with you guys, so maybe you guys can come to your own conclusions. But when we had this whole thing going on with the lungs, it was basically the heart chakra. There's a lot of grief, okay? So the emotion behind the heart chakra is grief. There's a lot of grief within the collective. When we look at the way that the collective has been, especially in the West, you know, where we have capitalism and we kind of have this like constant hamster wheel and go all the time, people don't really get a chance to actually process their grief. If you think about it, you know, even if you switch jobs, rarely are you going to be in a position where it's like, I'm going to take a week off or I'm going to take a month off before I start my new job. Some people are able to do that and that is great for them, but for the people who aren't, you don't even have the time to process the grief of leaving that job, for example. So it's like anytime we shed something and anytime we let something go, we still have to go through a grieving process to basically grieve that thing. And it's interesting because it's kind of like, it seems like we as a collective have accumulated a lot of grief in the heart space and kind of were put in a pause energetically is really what that is, to process. And these types of things, whether you process or not, maybe some people are starting to process now, it's catching up with them now. But regardless, right, when we talk about like heart chakra activations and these types of things, it's like, it's really fun and exciting to learn about these things and like maybe buy this type of activation and that type of activation. But at the same time, it's like you have to do the work. You have to do the processing, the purging, and the transmuting so you can kind of clear all these sorts of things. So anytime you have anything happening in the physical reality, maybe that is heart chakra related, maybe there is an accumulation of grief that has taken place. Although it's really hard to say these days, also I will add that in there. It's like there is a lot of manipulation in terms of the food that we eat and the air and like all these types of things. I'm not going to go too much in terms of what I mean by all of that, so you guys are going to have to read between the lines. So because of all of these manipulations, you know, a lot of these issues, once again, speaking between the lines, but a lot of these issues that people have are more so manipulated, and the free will has been manipulated, but I'm not going to get into that too much in this video. But back in the day, okay, up until the extreme, okay, manipulation that we have been in of all of these things that we are taking in and ingesting, I really did see it this way, that like every sort of illness that may be taking place originates from some form of energetic or maybe even spiritual cause. Because it's like, when we look at the body from more so a metaphysical perspective, we have 4 bodies. Some people are gonna say 7, but I always look at the 4. So the first one is the spiritual body, then we have the mental body, emotional body, and then we have the physical body. So by the time something hits the physical plane, it's already kind of gone through this process of the spiritual body, which is something kind of floating around in the ethers. You think it, so you kind of catch that thought. The more you think about the thought, you add emotional energy to it, and then through that emotional energy eventually gets to the physical plane and in the physical body. Now, because of the way that everything has been, I don't want to take you guys too much into your crown chakra today. We are talking about the heart chakra after all. A lot of maybe thoughts that might be lingering around in the astral plane might not necessarily even be yours, okay? So they could be things that are just there, and maybe because of quote unquote TV programming or whatever it was, trying to talk in code here, they might not even be your own. It could be a variety of things. We're very visual creatures. So it could be things that we have seen, whether it was on TV when we were kids and it kind of went into the subconscious, or whether it was something that we've seen on social media. It could be this as well, whether it's societal belief systems, programming, like all these types of things. So it's like we really want to shed ourselves from these types of things, because the heart chakra is one of the most important chakras. If you guys have been following the series so far, I've been mentioning how when you're operating out of the balanced 3 lower chakras and the balanced upper 3 chakras, you're actually operating out of the heart space, and the heart space and the heart resonance really helps us. Like, this is basically the intuitive muscle in a way also, if you think about it. Like, when you really get in tune with the feeling and the heart space, you're always right where you're meant to be. There's that aspect of things, and it's hard to get into this. I mean, the younger generations maybe don't have as much trouble because they're very like just frequency heart centered already. It's more so the older generations that have been more so in just like the overall energetics of what everything has been so far. You guys are gonna have to read between the lines. So maybe it's a lot more like deprogramming, like shedding, and like all these things, because also the longer you live out these certain ideas and principles, but the longer you play out these ideas, EPROG, etc., the word that I've been mentioning at the beginning of this video, the more you play it out, the harder it is to release it, and the harder it is to clear it, because it's the ego thing. You know, when I talked about in the solar plexus chakra video, we talked about creating an identity and creating an identity on these external things. And it's like, there's this huge thing with us as humans. It's like the more time that we invest into something, we think that it's more valuable. But is it really? I don't know. That's a question for you guys to ask yourselves. So it's like, sometimes we really want to just like destruct a lot of these belief systems. Scorpios are going to be really good at this. You know, I do have a lot of astrology videos on this channel, but overall, you know, the collective is going through this regardless. It's just happening. It is what it is. So it's like, it's a destruction of the ego, the egoic belief systems, shedding of what and who people thought that they really were. Because when we take off all these things, when we come back to the soul, who are you really? And you're only going to know who you really are when you get in tune with your heart resonance and your heart frequency. And the only way to really get in tune with that is to actually go through all these experiences, right? It's like that onion example that I used maybe in one of the previous videos, where it's like peeling off the layers of an onion and like shedding things that you think that you may have wanted. And a lot of things have been up until this point operating out of wounding. So in the heart space, because it is connected to the mother and it's connected to the unconditional love, I feel like as a collective, everybody is always in one way, shape, or form looking for love. Yes, they want acceptance. They want to feel like they belong. They want their existence to be validated. That's where a lot of partnerships do come from. But up until this point, it's been very not equal energetically. If you think about it, it's been very codependent, or one person loses their identity, or they don't know who they are. And then they latch onto this other person, and it turns into this like energetic, like, what is even going on here? So like, the biggest privilege in this life is time, you know, to have time to yourself, figure out who you are, be able to be in your own energy, and really figure out what is your own frequency. And then afterwards, of course, you're going to connect with people and all these types of things. But when you're in that lower wounding, you're constantly trying to either latch onto something or look for that stability and structure, when it's like you want to create that within. I do believe that this is what a lot of these scriptures, at least the origins of them all and the spiritual aspects of them all, were trying to teach us in their own way, in their own version. But at the end of the day, we ultimately are trying to reach some form of enlightenment, is really what's happening here. So back to the heart chakra. So the heart chakra is connected to all of this, okay? Because the heart chakra in a way is its own muscle. And it's like, you'll see in situations where it's like maybe you betrayed yourself, or you betrayed your intuition, or you betrayed what your heart wanted. And this is like that whole battle that's probably been as long as known about ourselves, that whole concept of heart versus mind. And it's like, we want to come out of the mind. We want to come out of the logic. And that's kind of like that ego that's also kind of connected to that solar plexus chakra. We want to come into the heart space, into that love vibration. And what is that to us? And it's like, I feel like when we don't have this energy vibrating out of us, we try to latch on or like look for elsewhere externally. And then it's interesting because ultimately, what is this vibration? It is our connection to the creator. That's been one of my more recent conclusions, at least. So I think we're all trying to connect to something, but really I think we're all trying to connect to our souls. And it's kind of been this like, we latch onto this and that person's latching onto that and so on and so forth. That's kind of like the visual that I'm getting. So you really want to get in tune with the heart frequency, because it's like the heart frequency is never going to lead you astray. And sometimes it's not going to make sense. And it's hard to get in tune with the heart frequency when there is a lot of distractions, and that is all done by design. And just like the whole, again, hamster wheel, and constantly like Monday to Friday, wait for the weekend, boom, 1 year passes, 2 years pass, etc., etc. And then the time kind of escapes you. And it's like, okay, hold on, like what is even happening here? Really reeling it all back in and bringing the energy back to yourself and thinking about what is the root of my soul is really what it is. What am I here to do? And it's actually really true when people say like follow your heart or listen to your heart or like do what you love. Like you'll hear this a lot of the time, and it really is this. Okay, that's what's always going to get you into those higher vibrations. When people talk about raising your vibration, this is what's going to get you into those higher vibrations. There's always the science aspect of things. We're not denying that in this video. Absolutely not. Energy at the end of the day is physics. Okay, even though people want to deny that. But regardless, it's like there's that aspect of things too. You can raise your vibration through running or exercising, or really looking to see how you can find joy in these activities and detach yourself from other people. That's the whole game here, I find. It's like constantly maybe giving our power away to people, places, things. Sometimes when people move into like the more spiritual aspect of things and haven't integrated maybe the lower chakra wounds, they might be giving their power away when it comes to entities or someone they're channeling, or this person said this person said this is going to be the energy. Why don't you take the responsibility for yourself and you say, I'm saying this is my conclusion? That's that wounding in the solar plexus that I actually wanted to mention in the solar plexus chakra video as well, but I guess maybe you guys were meant to integrate that information first, and now we're at the heart chakra video, and now it's coming through in this video. But I have noticed that as a wound in the spiritual community as well. So that's that wounding of not wanting to take responsibility. And where does that come from? Probably it's usually the original two caregivers. So maybe someone got mad at you or whatever it was, one of the parents, and now it's kind of like you don't want other people to quote unquote get mad at you or whatever it is. It's all about self-exploration. So this is another thing, and it's interesting because people talk about this in the religious scriptures in terms of giving our power away to entities and beings and angels and all these types of things. We're not going to get too esoteric with that in this particular video. I guess I'm just planting the seed, but it's just an observation that I've made, because I just see it as kind of like, why can't you say that you are saying this? Why do you have to say this angel told me this and now I'm telling you? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's just like, to me, it feels very much like not wanting to take responsibility, not wanting to take ownership and be like, this is my opinion. It's very much like, well, if you don't like it, it's not me saying it, it's this person who said it. So we got to catch ourselves, all these loops and tricks and traps of the matrix, for lack of a better term. It really is this. So that's what the heart space is all about. Okay, getting in tune with the heart frequency. And again, you got to go from the bottom up, especially when you're healing. You might bounce back and forth between the chakras, maybe work on this one for a while, work on that one. But it's like, if we look at it back to the tree example and tree analogy, you want to have the roots really grounded. And like when you're grounded, maybe in your person and your being and who you are as an individual, that's where like the solar plexus comes through. Boom, you're going to be able to kind of maybe get information. At the end of the day, what I even mentioned in my psychic gifts and abilities video that I recently made as well, is like at the end of the day, all this information really is for you. Is really what that is, and kind of like whatever you're meant to do with it. I think different people are going to serve different roles at different times. I do believe that, especially as we grow and as we evolve as beings, we kind of move on from this thing onto that thing, onto that thing, onto that thing. I sometimes see it as like energetic tasks. Maybe there's a certain person or group or whoever it is that you're meant to serve, maybe for a certain period of time. This is kind of how I see it. And again, you know, this is very opposite to the way that the structure has been. The structure has very much been keeping people almost in this like loop, and it turns into like a hypnotic thing. Honestly, I have so much to say. I mean, again, I don't want to take you guys too much into the crown, but it's like if you're constantly doing repetitive behaviors, even if it is like Monday to Friday, you know, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and it's not like there's anything wrong with a 9 to 5. It's any form of repetition and repetitive behavior, even if you're not in a 9 to 5, even if you're just like doing the same thing all the time and you're in this repetition. Why are you in the repetition? It brings you comfort. But it's like the more you do it, it puts you into this meditative state, and it's almost like you're in this like hypnosis is really what that is. And when you're in that state, you're not paying attention to other things. But that's what's happening with the heart space. Interestingly enough, I'm wearing green. We have green in here. I didn't mention that yet, but the heart chakra is green. So we're going from the bottom up in terms of the rainbow. And it's like when I talk with the lower chakra wounds, just the way that I psychically see them is the band is wider and it's longer, and those colors like red, orange, yellow. So it's kind of like when you're triggered in those chakras, you're kind of pulled down maybe for a longer period of time, or it's harder for you to get out of it, or it's harder for you to see it, or whatever it is. The element of the heart chakra is air. And then interestingly enough, anahata actually means unstruck and unbeaten as per Google search. So when you guys type that into Google, you'll see that as well. And I find this interesting because it's like as time goes on, and I think as life kind of just happens to people, it's like people kind of get beaten and beaten and beaten down. You don't want to get to that point. You want to get to that point of unconditional loving energy where it's like you're just vibrating love. It is incredibly difficult in the system that we're in. There's a lot of hate in the system. There's a lot of like people almost like waiting to kind of get back at a person, and like just a lot of hate energy. It was really brought to my attention when I saw like how fast like people are like quick to like quote unquote cancel people or whatever it is. And it's like it sometimes seems like people are just like waiting. It's like it's this like hate, it's this like jealousy energy. But it's like, where does this come from? It comes from some form of powerless energy where it's like maybe you think you can't do whatever that person is doing that maybe got you to follow them in the beginning. Maybe you want to maybe do some sort of whatever influencer job or whatever it is. It's usually with like larger creators, but I do believe that eventually everyone can come into that self-alignment, into that highest truth, and do whatever it is that you're actually meant to be doing on this earth plane. And then the heart chakra is going to be able to assist you with that. But it takes a lot of work. And then it's like when you're in your heart space and you're vibrating at that frequency, everything is connected. You become magnetic. You might attract more opportunities to you. You're always going to be protected. You're always going to be protected by the divine. And like honestly, karma is real. So it's like whatever energy you put out there, at least in the current times that we're living in, everything happens so fast. So at least it comes back to you like really, really quickly. Back in the day when we were like more dense and it was like really, really dense, this earth plane. Like when I say back in the day, this is like generations and generations. It used to be like passed on to like the children or like down the family lines. These days I find it's like almost instantaneous, like the karma. If you do something that's shadowy, this is what I mean. It's like shadow behavior. We want to be able to catch these shadows, explore why do we have them, how can we clear them, so we can come into that heart space, so it can ultimately just benefit us, is really what that is. Benefit us to just live a life that is high vibrational and pure and in your own vibration, is really what that is. Something that you want to do, something that is in your highest truth, not what society wants you to do and not what societal expectations of you are, and whatever that might be, friends, family, like XYZ. It's hard to break through these things, but it's like I find the more that you clear and the more that you do break through these things, you come more and more into that heart resonance, into that trust in the self. So this is kind of what we want to get to. We want to get into that trust of the self, and you stop caring as time goes on. Again, this is all work. This is all inner work, and it's not easy. Like that's the whole thing where it's like it's fun to maybe get a crystal or do a specific type of thing to try to clear something, but the inner work happens when you're faced with that particular situation, which is maybe a really, really challenging situation, and you might react or be tempted to react in a certain type of way. And it's like you have to break through that exact reaction. Sometimes it takes strength. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you're triggered, those triggered like fight or flight types of moments. Like sometimes it really takes a lot of like interpersonal strength to maybe not react in the way that you typically would. And then it's interesting, it's connected to then giving your power away in that situation. And then it kind of might put you into like, again, I don't want to use lower vibration because people always associate these things with like a class type of thing, like someone's in a lower vibration, so you're like lower overall as a person. It's not this. It's really just for your own benefit at the end of the day, for your own vibration. It's really for yourself. And you'll see that the more you choose yourself, the more you listen to the heart space, heart frequency, the more you don't give your power away to external things and situations and whatever it is that might be kind of like poking at you. Sometimes I see it as like a little mosquito like flying around, like trying to poke at you. And sometimes you'll see this within people. Sometimes you'll see like, let's say someone's like irritable and they're just like looking for an argument. Like let's say that person is like unaware of their irritability and they're kind of just like trying to like start an argument with whoever they can start one with. Better to just like leave, like I'll see you later. I'm gonna go to the library or I'm gonna go to the store. Like, you know, I'm not engaging with this. But sometimes it catches you off guard. It is what it is. You're not always gonna be this perfect person. That's another, I think, like shadow even of just like healing, or overall like thinking that you have to constantly heal or that you're constantly fixing yourself. It's not this. It's just like so you can get to a neutralized point. And the thing is, eventually, like really what it is, it's like, it just like helps equip us better for other things. Life goes on, things are going to happen. Life is life at the end of the day. You just want to be better equipped to deal with these things and to kind of try to get as close as you can to this form of balance within. Sometimes you'll get thrown off balance, but then you'll reel it back in. And the more that you learn yourself, the less external things and factors are really, really going to affect you as time goes on. You're just kind of like, okay, like it's fine. So if you're struggling with the heart chakra and just love overall and unconditional love, because it is related to the mother, you kind of want to see when you were growing up, were you given a level of unconditional love that maybe you were seeking or something of the sort? So that's kind of who you would look to if you're trying to resolve these issues within. Also known as the mother wound, which I could talk about forever, the mother and the father wounds and how they manifest within us, but that's a different video for a different day. But a huge thing that I've noticed with the mother wound specifically is that it's connected actually to codependency. So it's like the mother wound can manifest in this very, very interesting way where it's like, I kind of find Pluto and Scorpio actually, which is a millennial generation, but maybe even Gen X, which is Pluto and Libra, basically whichever generation didn't have the mother in the home when the child was growing up. So I don't know what the exact like amount of years would be like perfect amount of years for the child to spend with the mother, because the way that I always see this is like when we look at animals, they spend a specific amount of time with the mother. Mother kind of like helps them grow and all these types of things, and then the animal kind of goes off and becomes independent and like does their own thing in like the forest or wild or whatever. So it's interesting to me because it's like I see this mother wound manifesting in a way where it's like there wasn't enough of that time within people and like the relationship with the mother, whether maybe the mother was working or she was absent for whatever reason, emotionally unavailable, maybe there was a lot of things that were going on in her life. Honestly, overall, if I were to like really get into it, overall mothers just aren't really supported, and just the way that the system is, because the system is shadow masculine, so there isn't a lot of support for mothers overall. And like back in the day, children actually used to be raised by communities, and we also don't really have that anymore, at least in the West. So anyways, it's like whatever amount of time, I don't know what the age is, maybe it's up till age 4, maybe it's up till age 5, whatever the age is that the child is supposed to kind of get this like attention or like unconditional love from the mother, they didn't get it. And then this now turns into this like codependency thing. I find that either these people who have the mother wound either have an unhealthy relationship with the mother when they're growing up. So it's like they can never cut the cord with the mother. Like it's kind of like, again, it's like there's that lack of like the maternal love or like that unconditional love like within that, like maybe they missed a certain period of time. So they're kind of like energetically, this is all unconscious and subconscious. And once again, my own observations just from what I've observed within like people in general. But basically what happens is like they either can't cut the cord and like, you know, the mother is somehow always around, or the mother can't cut the cord with the child. Maybe it's like a subconscious guilt. I don't know what it is, but there's either this aspect that's happening, or there's the other aspect where the person becomes super codependent. Maybe there was like no mother figure at all. So this person is constantly seeking that maternal love elsewhere. And this is sometimes when I think of like relationships and people are constantly like seeking like one, or like they're in that codependent type of energy. It's an energy. Keep this in mind. So when you're in this codependent type of vibe, maybe you have a fear of being alone, or you're constantly looking again for an energy to latch onto and maybe be in a relationship with, or maybe it's a friend or whatever it is. I find that it comes from the lack of maternal love for that amount of time. I don't know, maybe there's research done on this. Maybe you guys can Google it and see what is the amount of time that the mother should be with the child to get that healthy amount of unconditional love for the person to be healthy and not fall into these codependent dynamics as they age. But that's another thing with the heart chakra that takes place, where it's like they're constantly seeking for love, whether they're aware of it or not. It's connected to that solar plexus chakra, where it's like you're giving your power away and then you're digging yourself into like this energetic like hole. But this is another manifestation of this heart chakra wound / mother wound that I have observed. And overall, if you really think about it, again, going back to like that divine love and like the connection to the creator and something bigger, overall, a lot of humans have been really cut off from spirituality and the spiritual aspects of life, and it's been a very materialistic plane. So there's that aspect of it as well that's taking place in the heart chakra. But you'll see anything that manifests in the heart space, people maybe who have been repressing their emotions or not listening to their heart, maybe there's going to be something happening within the heart space. Feel free to say, I don't claim that energy. So this is the overall vibe. Sometimes if you have upper back pain, that's like energy that's basically quote unquote stuck, that hasn't been released. So you'll really have to go through either the grieving process and really releasing. And sometimes, again, it's like an onion. You think it's one thing and then it takes you into Pandora's box, and then it takes you into this other thing and into this other thing. And sometimes from where you started to where you actually got to, like what the root of it all was, is like completely different. So it takes time. But that is overall what the heart chakra is about in the most divine version. You're in your highest alignment, okay? You're doing what you love. You're vibrating love. Like your overall energetic field is love. You don't really feel like you have to be putting your energy on anything. You're not externalizing. Like you're kind of magnetizing things really towards you, and it's helping you slowly get in tune with the higher chakras, which we will be touching in the next video. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. I do hope you guys enjoyed my video on the heart chakra. If you did, Please do like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of the day.